Okay, let's see if this is going to work. All right, so what am I going to call the show? The Tyler Hall Show? The Tyler Show? My YouTube channel show about the book? I don't know, we'll see. So, welcome to my YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tyler Hall, and hopefully soon you will get to know me better. I'm working on a project right now that I think is actually really, really unique and interesting. And what do those words even mean anymore, right? I think they're so overused. But the project essentially is I'm setting out to interview 100 of the top CEOs and founders of the Millennial generation in the world. And so I've already interviewed just over 15 of them, and those 15 interviews have been incredible. In fact, I wish I had really good video content for all of them, but I don't. And so the design of the book is, if you're familiar with, will you hand me Tim Ferriss's book in there, the big fat one? If you're familiar with Tim Ferriss's book, Tribe of Mentors, the book is really modeled after what he did in Tribe of Mentors, where he asked 140 of the world's most influential people the same 11 questions. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm asking 100, we'll probably do even 150 or 200 interviews to get down to that 100, but 7 very specific questions about their journey to entrepreneurship and becoming a business owner. So I wanted to share my findings from one of those interviews that I had a couple of days ago with a guy who, gosh, I've learned to grow and love, and I've only known him for less than a week. So, guy's name's Brian Beckstead. Brian Beckstead is one of the founders of Altra Running Company. And so if you're not familiar with Altra Running Company, Altra is now in over 50 countries. They're well over 250 employees, and one of the fastest growing running shoe brands in the world for the last probably 4 or 5 years. And so the reason I wanted to share this story is when I got into running, which some of you may or may not know that, but 2 years ago I was asked to run in a 5K with a friend of mine, and I really wasn't a runner at all. I actually, in fact, I hated running. And so when we started training for this 5K, it was brutal. My body hurt, my Achilles tendon and my calves and my feet and everything just hurt. And so I basically told my buddy, I said, look, dude, I'm not gonna do this. I can't do this. My body's breaking down, and I've only ran a few miles. And so he said, you know what, you need to try a pair of these shoes. Go to the running store, try on a pair of Ultras, and specifically he told me to try on Paradigm 1.5s. And so went to the running store, tried on the shoes, went and ran outside, and it was night and day difference. I literally, the way that I describe it to my friends and my family was, it feels like I'm running on the moon. So I shared this story with Brian when I got on the phone with him, that their zero drop technology and what they've done with Altra is incredible. But really, who Brian is as an individual is more incredible to me than even what they've done with their company. So I wanted to share, gosh, there's a couple of stories that I'd love to share from Brian, but maybe I'll share with you the question and then the answer. So I asked Brian, question number 2 is, tell me about how you formed your morning or daily routine, and what is that routine? And the way that Brian answered has changed my life. What he said is, he said, you know what, this has evolved a lot over the years, and it's never been complete, 100% complete. As an avid runner, my running routine has stayed consistent since I was in middle school. In the summers, I would run in the morning. In the winters, I'd run in the afternoon, and vice versa. My schedule really evolves around my running, because that is where I think, that is where I plan, that is where I ponder. And I can really relate to that. When I'm consistently running, I'm in the best headspace that I can get to in my life. He said, I have 3 young children now, so in the morning I get up with the kids while my wife works out. That's really his time. He says I'm up at 6:30 with them, we have breakfast with the family, and he doesn't deviate from that. And I think Brian's example, with the way that he prioritizes his family, is incredible. He says, then after we're done with all of that, I kind of start thinking about work. Gets into work about 8:30, does an exercise during lunch sometimes, generally he'll go on a run, and then home in the late afternoon where again he spends time with family until the later part of the evening. He said, my routine is now much more based around my personal and family than around my work. That is a balance that I've always been working on and has come second. I'm not only going to sacrifice my relationships, but my personal or mental health for my job. He says, every once in a while I have, but I found that this routine doesn't work when I do that. My routine is much more efficient if my family dealings are set. All said and done, my routine is based around running and family. And I thought that was, I thought Brian's example with his routine was incredible, and certainly one that I want to model myself after. The other question that I wanted to go through, so there's 7 of them. I'm going to cover 2 today, and 2 of the things that Brian and I discussed. So the other one that he mentioned that I thought was really cool was, I asked him, if you were down to your last $100, how would you invest that money? And he actually told me about an experience where literally at Altra Running in 2010, they were down to just a couple of $100s in their bank account. So he talks about how they maximized their money. They were looking for a second round of funding. They didn't know what to do, so they decided to spend it on marketing. And what he did was, he said, I used that money, I signed up for a race, and his 2 partners came down. One of them paced him for the race. It was a 100-kilometer race, so just over 60 miles. And then the other one did video content. And he said they followed me all along the course. They took pictures and videos, and at the very end, that was the very first catalog that they used to advertise their shoes online. And so he basically said, he tied that into the fact that Altra Running is not just a company, but this is what Brian and his co-founders live and breathe daily. And you know, I think about, if you're a young entrepreneur and you want to get into business, you want to run your own companies, you better be passionate about what you're doing. You better be living and breathing it. You better be true to yourself, because people will know if you're not. And so anyways, I wish I would have got this on video, this interview with Brian, but unfortunately I didn't. So I wanted to share just a little bit more about what Brian and I had talked about. So again, I'm going to hop back to the book. What are we trying to do here? We're interviewing, seriously, some of the top millennial age entrepreneurs and business owners and founders of today, of our time, globally, right? We're going to reach outside of the United States, and we're going to interview founders and CEOs. And ultimately what this will do is, this is going to provide the millennial generation who have huge aspirations, who have visions, who have ideas, right? It's gonna allow these individuals who are just like myself to maybe step outside of corporate America, or step outside of their comfort zone, and have a playbook and an understanding on the things that they need to do in order to go and run their own companies and pursue their passion. So the book's gonna be amazing. I can't wait for it. We're already starting to talk to amazing publishers. I've got lots and lots of incredible interviews lined up, and I can't wait to deliver this to you. So if you know an exceptional millennial age entrepreneur or business owner, wherever they live in the world, I want to interview them. Please introduce me, and we'll be back then. How was that? Pretty good.